The stars hung silently in the void as the Thalassian scout ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an unremarkable yellow star system. The ship's commander, Sub-Admiral Kazisthrix, stared at the display with 4 of his 6 eyes while his secondary brain processed the initial scan data. Another primitive system, he buzzed to his crew. Standard protocol. Map the planets, identify resources, and locate the dominant species for processing. None of the crew members responded verbally. They didn't need to. The Thalassian Stellar. Dominion had conquered over 300 star systems using the same efficient procedure for millennia. The process was so routine that many officers considered outer rim duty boring. The scout fleet spread out, 6 ships moving toward different planets in the system. A junior officer approached Kazithrix with a data tablet. Unusual energy readings. From the 3rd planet, Sub-Admiral. Signs of primitive atomic power and basic space travel within their own system. Kazithrix made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. Classification? Pre-Imperial Stage 2. They have basic spaceflight, but no faster-than-light capability. Send the standard greeting and dominance broadcast. Inform them of their new status as subjects of the Eternal Emperor. On Earth, it was a normal Tuesday morning. Captain Susan Miller of the Earth Defense Force vessel Intrepid was completing her routine patrol of the Jupiter Security Zone. At 34, she was one of the youngest captains in the EDF, with a reputation for level-headedness and quick thinking. "Captain, we're picking up unusual readings at the edge of the solar system," said Lieutenant Paul Watson, his eyes fixed on his monitor. "Multiple objects just appeared near Neptune's orbit. They're moving inward at high speed." Susan straightened in her command chair. "Natural objects? No, ma'am. Definitely artificial. Size and energy outputs suggest vessels significantly larger than anything in our fleet." She took a deep breath. First contact. After decades of searching the stars and listening for signals, aliens had arrived without warning. "Get me Earth Command. Priority Alpha." Within hours, the news had spread across Earth. Governments scrambled emergency meetings, military forces went on high alert, and civilians alternated between panic and excitement. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, representatives from every nation gathered to formulate a response. Dr. Alan Garrett nervously adjusted his glasses as he was rushed through security checkpoints. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, he had spent his career preparing for this moment, though he'd never truly believed it would come during his lifetime. "Dr. Garrett, thank you for coming so quickly," said General Maria Vasquez, the newly appointed head of the First Contact Division. "We've received a transmission from the alien vessels. Our computers are struggling to decode it." Alan nodded, his heart racing. "I'll need everything you've got. Visual data, audio patterns, any mathematical sequences they might be using." While Alan worked with his team to decipher the alien message, the Intrepid and 4 other EDF vessels formed a defensive line near Mars. Captain Miller studied the tactical display in her command center. "They're still advancing, Captain," reported Commander Ezra Bennett, her tactical officer. "No obvious weapons powered up, but their formation suggests military organization." Susan nodded. "Keep our weapon systems on standby but not targeted. We don't want to appear hostile." 3 hours later, Dr. Garrett's face appeared on the main screen of the Intrepid, his expression grave. "Captain Miller, we've decoded enough of their message to understand its basic meaning. It's not a greeting, it's a declaration. They're informing us that our planet is now property of something called the Thalassian Stellar Dominion and demanding our immediate surrender." Susan's jaw tightened. "Have you prepared a response?" "Yes. A simple message requesting peaceful dialogue and cultural exchange. We've translated it into what we believe is their mathematical language structure. Send it immediately." On the Thalassian command ship, Sub-Admiral Kazithrix received the human response with confusion. His mental pattern stuttered as he processed the unexpected reply. "They want dialogue?" He buzzed to his second-in-command. "Check the translation matrix for errors." "No errors, Sub-Admiral. They acknowledge our presence but reject Imperial authority." Kazithrix's skin flushed dark purple with irritation. In 3 centuries of service, he had never encountered a Stage 2 civilization that didn't immediately surrender. The Dominion's overwhelming technological superiority usually ensured compliance without resistance. Send the standard warning demonstration. Target their outpost on the 6th planet's moon. The Thalassian ship fired a single energy beam toward Europa, Jupiter's icy moon. The research station there, home to 47 scientists and engineers, disappeared in a flash of light. On the Intrepid, alarms blared as sensors registered the attack. "They've destroyed Europa Station," shouted Lieutenant Watson. "No survivors detected." Susan's face hardened as she made the most difficult decision of her career. "All vessels, defensive positions. Return fire, targeted disabling shots only. Aim for propulsion and weapons systems." The 5 Earth ships moved with surprising speed and coordination. The Thalassians, expecting either surrender or primitive, easily deflected attacks, were caught unprepared by the precision of the human response. 3 Thalassian scout ships were hit with concentrated electromagnetic pulses, followed by kinetic projectiles that damaged their engines. Before they could adapt their shields, boarding parties from the Intrepid and its sister ship Dauntless had magnetized to their hulls. Commander Bennett led the boarding team onto the largest disabled vessel. The Thalassians, insectoid beings, nearly 7 feet tall with multiple limbs and compound eyes, fought fiercely but without coordination. When their commanding officer fell, the rest seemed confused and disorganized. Within 20 minutes, 3 alien ships were under human control. The remaining Thalassian vessels retreated to the edge of the solar system, transmitting urgent messages back to their empire. In the Intrepid's secure holding bay, Susan Miller looked at the captured Thalassian officer. Dr. Garrett worked frantically with a translation device beside her. "Ask it why they attacked us without provocation," she said. The alien's response, when translated, sent chills down her spine. "Primitive species always surrender. Resistance is unprecedented. The Dominion has ruled 300 worlds for 10,000 years. Your defiance is impossible." Susan leaned closer. "How many ships in your full fleet?" The Thalassian's answer made the room go silent. "The Grand Imperial Fleet has 10,000 capital ships and 50,000 support vessels. You have doomed yourselves by resisting." Susan exchanged looks with Dr. Garrett before turning back to the alien. "Tell your empire one thing when they come. Humans don't surrender, and if they want our world, they better bring more ships." News of the failed first contact spread across Earth like wildfire. Videos of the alien Thalassians were shared on every news channel. Their insect-like bodies and cold, calculating manner shocked many humans, but fear quickly turned to resolve. For the first time in history, all nations united under a single purpose: survival. In the highest levels of the Thalassian Empire, rage coursed through High General Vostar's neural pathways. The loss of 3 scout ships to a primitive species was unprecedented and, more importantly, embarrassing. Sub-Admiral Kusthrix failed in the simplest of missions. Vostar hissed to his war council. "This cannot stand. The humans must learn their place in the Dominion." One of his advisors cautiously raised a limb. "Perhaps we should study them more carefully before—" Silence. Vostar's skin pulsed with angry red patterns. "I will not waste resources analyzing primitives. Prepare. Battle Group 7 for immediate deployment." Battle Group 7 consisted of 20 heavy warships and 50 support vessels, a mid-sized force by Imperial standards, but one that had conquered entire star systems without difficulty. The Thalassians were so confident in their superiority that they didn't bother gathering intelligence on human military capabilities. On Earth, the captured alien technology provided invaluable insights. Lieutenant Olivia Parker led the engineering team studying the Thalassian ships. At 29, she had 3 degrees in physics and mechanical engineering, making her uniquely qualified for this urgent task. "Their tech is advanced but oddly inflexible," she explained during an emergency briefing at the United Nations Space Command. "They haven't innovated in centuries. It's like they found something that works and stopped trying to improve it." Admiral William Chen, recently appointed commander of Earth's United Space Forces, leaned forward. "Can we exploit that?" "Olivia, nodded eagerly. Their ships communicate on predictable frequencies. Their targeting systems are powerful but slow to adapt to unexpected maneuvers. And, most importantly, their chain of command is completely rigid. Each ship needs constant instructions from higher-ranking vessels. This last bit of information came from Colonel Jack Harper's interrogation of the captured Thalassians. His special operations team had discovered that the aliens functioned almost like a hive mind, with lower ranks unable to make independent decisions. They literally can't think for themselves, Jack explained, running a hand through his gray-streaked hair. Cut off their commanders and the rest freeze up. Admiral Chen's strategy took shape quickly. We'll fight unconventionally, small fast attack groups, electromagnetic warfare to disrupt their communications, hit-and-run tactics. Engineers worked around the clock to modify Earth's fleet. Smaller, faster ships were equipped with enhanced jamming technology. Civilian hacking experts joined military specialists to create viruses that could infiltrate alien systems. Lieutenant Paul Watson, who had first detected the alien arrival, developed a program that could mimic Thalassian command frequencies. We can send their ships false orders, he explained to Captain Miller. Create confusion in their ranks. Susan Miller, now promoted to Rear Admiral, would lead the first line of defense. Her ship, the Intrepid, had been upgraded with reverse-engineered Thalassian shield technology. 17 days after first contact, sensors detected the arrival of Battle Group 7 at the edge of the solar system. The massive alien warships made no attempt at stealth, broadcasting demands for immediate surrender. Admiral Chen's voice was calm as he addressed all Earth forces. Remember your training, remember Europa. Fight smart, not fair. The human fleet did not meet the Thalassians in open battle as expected. Instead, they scattered throughout the solar system, using asteroids and moons for cover. When the alien force split up to pursue them, the trap was sprung. Small fighter groups attacked the isolated Thalassian ships, targeting communication arrays and command bridges. Colonel Harper's special forces used specially designed boarding pods to infiltrate the alien flagship. Lieutenant Watson's false command sent Thalassian ships on wild goose chases or, in some cases, firing upon their own vessels. In the command center beneath Geneva, world leaders watched the battle unfold with tense expressions. The human fleet was taking heavy losses. Nearly 30% of their ships were destroyed in the first day of fighting. But the Thalassians were suffering unprecedented confusion. Their battle doctrine hasn't changed in 2,000 years, Dr. Alan Garrett explained, having studied the aliens' historical records from captured databases. They've never needed to adapt because no one has ever fought back effectively. On why? The third day of battle, Colonel Harper's team succeeded in capturing a Thalassian commander. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate and dramatic. Without clear leadership, entire ship groups became disorganized, making them easy targets for human strikes. Admiral Miller led a daring assault on 3 Thalassian heavy cruisers near Mars. Her voice was steady as she gave orders. All ships execute Pattern Omega. Target their central command nodes first, then engines. The human vessels moved in perfect coordination, seemingly chaotic to Thalassian observers, but following a carefully choreographed dance. They darted between the massive alien ships, firing precise shots at vulnerable points, then disappearing behind Mars's moons before the Thalassians could respond. By the 4th day, the once mighty Battle Group 7 was in retreat. Over half, their ships had been disabled or destroyed, with the remainder falling back to the edge of the solar system to regroup. Admiral Chen broadcast a final message to the retreating aliens. This was just our greeting party. You haven't seen anything yet. In the aftermath, humans began preparing for the inevitable larger assault. They knew the Empire would not take this defeat lightly. Lieutenant Olivia Parker made a breakthrough while studying the alien propulsion systems. We can adapt this technology to our own ships, she told Admiral Chen. It's not quite faster than light travel, but it could give us the ability to reach nearby stars. For the first time, humanity had the opportunity to take the fight beyond their own solar system. In his private quarters, Admiral Chen stared at the star charts captured from the Thalassian ships. The Empire controlled a vast swath of the galaxy, with Earth located on the very edge of their territory. The coming war would be unlike anything humans had ever faced. They thought we would be easy prey, he murmured to himself. They've never faced humans before. On the bridge of the Thalassian command ship, now limping back toward Imperial space, the surviving officers transmitted their report with trembling limbs. The Emperor would not be pleased with their failure, but more concerning was the realization that they had awakened something unexpected in this remote corner of the galaxy. Something dangerous. The news of Battle Group 7's defeat reached the Imperial capital world of Thalas Prime. In the vast crystal dome of the High Command Center, Emperor Zicthalon the Eternal trembled with rage, his normally pale exoskeleton flushed deep crimson. Impossible, he chittered to his assembled generals. A Stage 2 civilization cannot defeat an Imperial battle group. High General Vostar lowered all four of his eyes in submission. The reports are verified, Eternal One. The humans use unusual tactics. They do not fight according to any known doctrine. This statement caused a ripple of distress among the gathered officials. The Thalassian Empire had conquered the stars through predictable, overwhelming force. Their enemies always followed expected patterns of resistance before inevitable surrender. I want to understand these creatures before we crush them, the Emperor declared. Send researchers alongside the next fleet. Learn their weaknesses. On Earth, the captured Thalassian vessels yielded valuable insights. Dr. Nancy Rodriguez led the scientific team studying the aliens themselves. At 41, she had spent her career in xenobiology, a field that had been purely theoretical until now. Their biology explained so much about their society, she explained to the United Earth Defense Council. Thalassians evolved from hive-dwelling insects. Even though they've developed individual consciousness, they retain their ancestral programming. She displayed images of Thalassian brain scans. They have two separate neural centers. One processes individual thoughts, but it's always subordinate to the second, which connects to their hierarchy. They literally cannot disobey a superior's orders. It causes physical pain. Admiral William Chen nodded thoughtfully. That's why they fell apart when we captured their commanders. Dr. Rodriguez continued. Exactly. And there's more. They find our decision-making incomprehensible. The concept of individuals making choices without direct orders seems impossible to them. This information proved crucial as Ambassador Kyle Wright prepared for the first diplomatic contact with Thalassian representatives. A tall man with kind eyes and a patient demeanor, Kyle had been chosen for his remarkable ability to find common ground with different cultures. We need to present a united front, he told his team. If they see disagreement among us, they'll interpret it as weakness. When the Thalassian diplomatic vessel arrived at the neutral meeting point near Neptune's orbit, Kyle led the human delegation with careful precision. The Thalassians, led by Imperial scholar Mesotak, seemed perpetually confused by human interactions. You say you have no single leader who controls all humans, Feztak asked during their third meeting. We have many leaders who work together, Kyle explained. Different nations, different systems, but we cooperate. The aliens' compound eyes flickered rapidly, a sign of distress Dr. Rodriguez had told them. Inefficient, chaotic. How do you function without absolute hierarchy? Kyle smiled gently. We find strength in our differences. Each human brings unique perspectives and ideas. These conversations continued for weeks while both sides prepared for the next phase of the conflict. The Thalassians could not comprehend concepts like individual rights or democratic decision-making. To them, the human approach seemed impossible to sustain. Meanwhile, General Frank Peters studied recovered Thalassian military records. A veteran of many Earth conflicts, his weathered face creased with concern as he addressed the Defense Council. Their military doctrine hasn't changed in over 800 years, he explained. They've conquered so many compliant species that innovation became unnecessary. They simply overwhelm with numbers. Lieutenant Olivia Parker had made significant progress adapting Thalassian technology. "We've modified their propulsion systems for our ships," she reported. "We can now reach Neptune in hours instead of days." Colonel Jack Harper's special forces had been training with captured Thalassian weapons. "Their infantry tactics are as rigid as their space combat," he demonstrated. "They advance in perfect formations, never adapting to terrain or changing circumstances." This intelligence allowed humans to prepare unusual defenses that would confuse and disrupt Thalassian battle patterns. Earth's factories worked around the clock, producing new weapons and ships incorporating alien technology. Among the Thalassian researchers, a young scientist named Ixiltor became increasingly fascinated with human psychology. Unlike most of his kind, he possessed unusual neural patterns that allowed greater independent thought. One day, Ixiltor requested a private meeting with Dr. Rodriguez. When they were alone, he leaned forward nervously. "There are things my superiors do not want me to tell you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "But I believe the Empire is making a dangerous mistake in attacking your world." Dr. Rodriguez kept her expression neutral. "Why would you share this with me?" "Because I found something in our ancient records," Ixiltor replied. "Legends of another species that once defied the Empire, a species erased from official history. The only remaining reference was a warning: run." Dr. Rodriguez's heart raced, but she maintained her composure. "Do you believe this refers to humans?" "No." Ixiltor's compound eyes shimmered with what might have been fear. "But I believe it refers to beings like you." The record suggested they were dangerously unpredictable, capable of individual thought and adaptation that threatened the very foundation of our empire. This secret conversation marked the beginning of a clandestine communication channel between Ixiltor and human scientists. The young Thalassian began questioning imperial dogma, providing valuable intelligence about the Empire's plans. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Susan Miller oversaw the construction of Earth's first true battle cruiser, the Defiance. Built around a Thalassian engine core but designed with human innovation, it represented a new era in space warfare. "We've incorporated everything we've learned," she told Admiral Chen during the inspection. "Decentralized command systems, adaptive shields and weapons that can change frequency to bypass their defenses." Admiral Chen nodded approvingly. "The Empire thinks in terms of overwhelming force. We need to think in terms of overwhelming creativity." On Thalas Prime, the Emperor had lost patience with diplomatic efforts. Reports from the researchers studying humans only increased his determination to crush this dangerous species. "They do not respect proper hierarchy," he declared to his war council. "Their unpredictability makes them a threat to the natural order of the galaxy." He made an unprecedented decision, one not taken in 10,000 years of Imperial history. "Deploy the Imperial Grand Fleet," he commanded, "all of it." The Grand Fleet comprised over 2,000 capital ships and 10,000 support vessels, a force typically spread across dozens of star systems to maintain Imperial control. Never before had it been concentrated for a single campaign. As the HFY massive armada began its journey toward Earth, Ixiltor managed to send one final message through the secret channel. "They are coming with everything. The Emperor fears you more than any species encountered in Imperial history. He fears you because you are what the ancient warning spoke of: beings who cannot be controlled, cannot be predicted." On Earth, humans prepared for the greatest challenge of their existence. But unlike the Thalassians, they did not fear the unknown. They embraced it. In laboratories, factories, and training grounds across the planet, individuals worked creatively toward a common goal, each contributing unique ideas and perspectives. It was this very quality, the characteristic the Thalassians found most alarming, that would prove to be humanity's greatest strength. The void between planets in the outer solar system lit up with thousands of energy signatures as the Imperial Grand Fleet arrived. Ships stretched as far as telescopes could see, their crystal hulls glinting in the distant sunlight. Earth had never witnessed such overwhelming force. In the command center beneath Geneva, Admiral William Chen studied the tactical displays with a grim expression. "Our worst fears confirmed. They've committed their entire fleet." Next to him, Dr. Nancy Rodriguez looked up from her data tablet. Ixultor's last transmission indicates the Emperor himself is leading the attack. This is unprecedented in their history. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. They fear us that much. Humanity had spent every moment since the last battle preparing for this confrontation. The odds seemed impossible. Earth's combined fleet numbered just over 400 vessels, many hastily constructed or converted from civilian use. But Admiral Chen had a plan that broke every rule of conventional warfare. The Empire thinks in terms of direct confrontation, he explained to world leaders. We need to make this as indirect as possible. Captain Ryan Bishop had been working with Lieutenant Olivia Parker to reverse engineer Thalassian faster-than-light technology. A former test pilot with steady hands and a brilliant mind, Ryan led the team that built Earth's first FTL-capable ships. They're not pretty, he admitted during the final briefing, displaying images of 10 sleek black vessels. We stripped them down to basics. No luxury, just speed and stealth. The mission was simple but daring. While Earth's main fleet engaged, the Imperial Armada in the solar system, Bishop's squadron would jump beyond Neptune and strike at the Empire's undefended supply lines and communication relays. They won't expect us to have this capability, Ryan explained, and they certainly won't expect us to go on the offensive while under attack. Dr. Alan Garrett had made another crucial breakthrough. Working with captured communication devices, he discovered a way to broadcast false orders that mimicked Imperial command protocols. Their rigid hierarchy is their greatest weakness, he explained. Lower-ranking ships cannot question orders from above. If we can make them believe they're receiving authentic commands from their superiors. The plan was set. Earth would fight. Not with matching force, but with human ingenuity and deception. As the Imperial fleet moved past Neptune's orbit, Emperor Zekthalan watched from his massive flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Nearly 2 miles long, the crystal vessel housed 50,000 Thalassian crew members and enough firepower to reduce a planet's surface to molten slag. The humans continue to resist, reported his chief strategist. Their vessels are moving to defensive positions around their inner planets. The Emperor's exoskeleton rippled with anticipation. They will learn the cost of defiance, begin the standard advance pattern. The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation, thousands of ships arranged by size and function in a three-dimensional grid. It was a display of power meant to terrify enemies into submission before a shot was fired, but the humans did not follow the expected script. Instead of gathering for a hopeless last stand, Earth's fleet scattered into dozens of small groups, hiding among asteroids and moons, using the gas giants' radiation belts to mask their signatures. Admiral Susan Miller commanded the largest group, from the Defiance. Her voice was steady as she addressed her captains. Remember your training. Hit fast, disable command ships when possible, then retreat. We're not trying to win battles. We're trying to create chaos. The first engagement came near the orbit of Saturn. A group of 20 human ships suddenly emerged from the Moon Titan's shadow, firing precisely at the communication arrays of 3 Thalassian command vessels before disappearing again. Curious strategy, noted the Emperor's advisor. They cannot hope to defeat us with such limited attacks. But similar strikes erupted across the solar system. Human vessels appeared, caused targeted damage, and vanished before the Thalassians could respond effectively. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Bishop's small fleet activated their FTL drives beyond Neptune, vanishing in flashes of light. They reappeared near a critical Imperial supply depot 3 light-years from Earth, a station that coordinated logistics for the entire Grand Fleet. They've left it practically undefended, Ryan noted with surprise. They never imagined we could reach it. His ships launched their attack, destroying communication relays and fuel processors before the stunned Thalassian garrison could mount an effective defense. By the time Imperial reinforcements arrived, the human vessels had jumped to their next target, a major communication hub linking the Grand Fleet to the Imperial capital. Back in the solar system, Dr. Garrett activated his false command system. Suddenly, hundreds of Thalassian ships received contradictory orders, seemingly from their own superiors. Some were commanded to retreat, others to advance into hazardous positions, and some even received orders to fire on friendly vessels. The ensuing confusion spread through the perfect Imperial formation like a virus. Ships collided as they attempted to follow conflicting instructions. Some captains, unable to determine which orders were genuine, simply stopped moving altogether, awaiting clarification. On the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Zicthalon watched in growing horror as his perfect battle plan disintegrated into chaos. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice rising to a shriek. "Restore order immediately." His officers struggled to comply, but the humans had studied Thalassian psychology well. The more the Emperor and his commanders tried to reassert control, the more their precise instructions were mimicked and corrupted by Dr. Garrett's system. Admiral Miller seized the moment of confusion to lead a daring assault on the Imperial flagship itself. The Defiance and 5 other ships punched through the disorganized Thalassian defense screen, firing concentrated energy beams at the Eternal Dominion's propulsion systems. "Their shields are adapting," reported her tactical officer. "We're losing effectiveness." Susan nodded calmly. "Switch to Plan Delta. All ships rotate frequencies according to the sequence." The human vessels shifted their weapon frequencies in a seemingly random pattern that the Thalassian shields couldn't predict. Designed to adapt to consistent attacks, their defensive systems failed against weapons that changed faster than they could respond. Colonel Jack Harper led a special forces team in specially designed boarding craft. Using the confusion of battle as cover, they magnetized to the Imperial flagship's hull near an auxiliary access port. "Cutting through now," Jack reported over the secure channel. "Minimal resistance so far." His team fought their way through the massive vessel's corridors, heading for the command center. Thalassian crew members, unused to combat aboard their own ships, responded slowly and predictably. Meanwhile, Captain Bishop's FTL squadron had struck 7 critical Imperial targets beyond the solar system. Supply chains collapsed, reinforcements were delayed, and the carefully coordinated Imperial command structure began to break down as communication hubs went dark. The battle for Earth became the largest space conflict in Imperial history. For 3 days, human forces fought with desperate innovation, while the Thalassians struggled to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. Despite their smaller numbers, humanity prevented the Empire from bringing its full might to bear effectively. The rigid hierarchy that had served the Thalassians so well in conquering compliant species became their greatest liability against humans who thrived on chaos and individual initiative. On the 3rd day, Colonel Harper's team reached the Emperor's command center. In a brutal close-quarters battle, they fought their way through the Imperial guards. Jack himself confronted Emperor Zicthalon, who had never imagined he could be reached by enemy forces. "Surrender," Jack demanded, his weapon aimed at the Emperor's central nervous cluster. For the first time in thousands of years, the Eternal Emperor of the Thalassian Dominion faced something completely outside his experience: defeat. The vast command center of the Imperial flagship fell silent. Emperor Zicthalon, surrounded by his elite guards, stared at the human soldiers with his compound eyes rapidly shifting color from rage to disbelief. "Impossible," he chittered, his translator converting the sound to English. "No species has ever breached an Imperial command vessel." Colonel Jack Harper kept his weapon steady. "There are a lot of things humans do that are supposed to be impossible. Surrender now." Before the Emperor could respond, the command center doors burst open. A group of Thalassians led by the young scientist Ixiltor rushed in, weapons raised but not aimed at the humans. "My Emperor," Ixiltor said, his voice steady despite his trembling limbs. "I beg you to end this conflict. These humans are not like our previous conquests." Ixiltor wasn't alone. Behind him stood several dozen Thalassian scientists and lower-ranking officers who had been studying humans. Their exposure to human thinking had changed them, awakening questions about the Empire's rigid hierarchy. "Traitors," hissed the Emperor. "You have been corrupted by these creatures." "Not corrupted, enlightened," Ixiltor replied. The ancient warnings were true. These beings cannot be controlled through our traditional methods. Their strength lies in what we consider chaos. On Earth, Admiral William Chen watched the events unfold through the body cameras of Harper's team. "Keep the Emperor secure," he ordered, "but treat him with respect. We need him alive and unharmed for what comes next. With their emperor captured and command structure in chaos, the Imperial fleet fell into disarray. Some ship captains attempted to continue the fight, but without central coordination, their efforts were fragmented and ineffective. Dr. Nancy Rodriguez worked with Ixiltor to draft a ceasefire proposal. The terms must acknowledge both their psychological needs and ours, she explained. They require clear hierarchy and structure, while we need guarantees of independence. The ceasefire stopped the fighting, but tensions remained high. For the first time in 50,000 years of Imperial history, the Thalassians faced a situation their rigid protocols couldn't address, negotiating with equals rather than accepting surrender from inferiors. Ambassador Kyle Wright led the human diplomatic team aboard a neutral vessel positioned between Earth and Mars. The Emperor, now technically a prisoner but treated as an honored guest, was brought to the negotiations. "We do not seek your destruction," Kyle told the assembled Thalassian leadership. "We seek recognition as a sovereign power, not an imperial subject." The Emperor's exoskeleton flushed dark purple, a sign of extreme emotional distress. "The Empire does not recognize equals. All species serve the hierarchy." Admiral Susan Miller, who had joined the diplomatic team, leaned forward. "Your hierarchy failed against us. You can adapt, or you can continue a war you cannot win through traditional means." This blunt assessment caused murmurs among the Thalassian delegation. Their society valued truth and precision, and the facts were undeniable. Their perfect military machine had failed against human unpredictability. Ixiltor and his group of dissidents provided a crucial bridge between the two species. They had begun to understand human thinking while still appreciating Thalassian needs. "Perhaps," Ixiltor suggested carefully, "there is a third option beyond conquest or continued conflict, an alliance of distinct species, each maintaining their own systems while cooperating for mutual benefit." The idea was revolutionary in imperial politics. For days, the negotiations continued, with tempers flaring and progress stalling. The Emperor repeatedly insisted on human submission, while Earth's representatives firmly maintained their independence. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Colonel Jack Harper, invited to speak about human military capabilities, addressed the Thalassian military commanders directly. "You've conquered hundreds of worlds because those species think like you do," he said simply. "We don't. You can spend the next century trying to force us into your mold and failing, or you can gain an ally with perspectives you've never considered." To demonstrate his point, he presented scenarios from Earth's military history where smaller forces defeated larger ones through unconventional tactics. The Thalassian officers, trained to respect effective military strategy, began to understand the value in human thinking. Meanwhile, Earth continued to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Lieutenant Olivia Parker's engineering teams had built 20 more FTL-capable vessels, ready to strike deep into Imperial territory if negotiations failed. After 17 tense days, a historic agreement took shape. The Thalassian Empire would recognize Earth and its colonies as a sovereign entity, not subjects but allies. Humans would have access to Imperial technology and trade networks, while the Empire would benefit from human innovation and creativity. "We are writing a new chapter in galactic history," Ambassador Kyle said during the signing ceremony, two vastly different species finding strength in their differences rather than trying to eliminate them. The Emperor, though clearly uncomfortable with the arrangement, recognized the practical reality. His empire had never faced a species that fought as humans did, and trying to subdue them would cost more than his civilization could bear. "The humans will be acknowledged as independent allies," he declared formally, using terms that had not been spoken in imperial diplomacy for millennia. As the Thalassian fleet began to withdraw from the solar system, news of the unprecedented treaty spread throughout the galaxy. On hundreds of imperial worlds, subject species learned that the invincible empire had been checked by a single world of unpredictable beings. Dr. Alan Garrett worked with Ixiltor to translate the ancient records that had first mentioned species similar to humans. They discovered references to a civilization that had existed 20,000 years earlier, beings who valued individual thought and creativity, just as humans did. They were nearly wiped out in a war with the early empire, Ixiltor explained, studying the fragmented texts. The survivors fled to an unknown region of space, leaving only a warning behind for any who encountered beings like them. What was the warning? Alan asked. Ixiltor's translation confirmed what they had suspected. It wasn't a warning to other species about humans. It was a warning to the Empire about what would happen if they encountered beings like us again. The message literally translates to, "If you find others like us, run." 6 months after the treaty signing, Earth launched its first official diplomatic mission to Thalos Prime. Captain Ryan Bishop commanded the newly constructed vessel Horizon, Earth's first purpose-built interstellar ship. As human vessels began to venture beyond the solar system, other subjugated species looked to Earth with hope and fascination. Many sent secret requests for cultural exchange, eager to learn from the only civilization that had successfully stood against the Empire. In the halls of imperial power, a new standing order was issued regarding human expansion into the stars. After much internal debate, the Emperor approved the simple directive that acknowledged the new reality of the galaxy. The order contained just 2 words that echoed the ancient warning, but with a new meaning that reflected the Empire's pragmatic acceptance of a power they could not control. Let them.